It's round 3 of the Thundersport GB Championship 2016. We're here in Norfolk at Snetterton Race Circuit, open since 1953. We hope you're as excited as we are.
The Dymag Golden Era Superbikes ready to come onto the grid for their first race here on TV Day. Round 3 at Snetterton for 2016 Thundersport GB Championships. The reigning champion, John Dieterman, on the Baxi Yamaha. Looks like the man to beat again so far this season. There's Richard Blunt, of course the Portico Sport rider that John had so many fights with and battles last year for the championship. This year, Blunty is not quite been on the same pace, hasn't been at the finish line for as many races, but you just never know. These two have had some pretty good scraps in the past. Could it be the same again here? Nick Williamson is second in the championship. Look out for number 6, Nick, who pretty much sports a different motorcycle every time I see him at each round. That was a good start though from number 13, the Portico Sport Racing rider, the former Golden Era Superbike champion, Richard Blunt, getting himself ahead of the current Golden Era Superbike champion, number 1, John Dieterman. We've got a couple of other odd-looking bikes out there. When I say odd, I mean they're just not obviously Golden Era machines. We have some Monex GP1 freshman riders. Overflow, we have so many entries in GP1 that they're getting their chance to race out here. So look out for those. We'll keep an eye on them throughout the race. It's Richard Blunt, though, that leads the Golden Era Superbike class, sponsored by Dymag. In third there is Ryan Strafford, and then Andy Chalice, number 20, on the CT Racing Suzuki. Further back there, nice to see Mr. L'Oreal himself, 49, Kev Howdle, on the Alpha Hare Academy Suzuki. He's having a bit of fun on his old Street Fighter by the looks of things there. Is Kev. There's Richard Blunt and John Dieterman then, first and second. Then Strafford, Chalice, Williamson. Then we've got 71 Richie Thornton. Then Richie Harrison. Number 88 is Richard Stubbs. Oh, here we go again. I forgot how many Richards we've got in this club, in this championship. That's 4 Richards in the top 8. Have a word of yourselves, boys. They head around turn 1 then, and it's Blunt from Dieterman. Blunt would desperately need 25 points in this championship. Looks like a new set of leathers as well for Richard for here in this weekend on the Portico Sport Kawasaki. There he is up ahead of Dieterman, a familiar sight watching these two scrap it out for Golden Era Superbike wins. More often than not though, it was the number 1 that ended up winning, or the number 18 as it was last year. There's Andy Chalice, he's got himself up in the third now, number 20. Nice to see Andy up there, rider from Peterborough, just up ahead there then of 57, the Murfield rider, Ryan Strafford. Ryan, who is a former Street Fighter champion, of course. Across the line go the 2 leaders, Blunt, Dieterman. Building quite a nice gap now out front. They're lapping in the late 1:14s. That's about a second slower than they were lapping this time last year, although conditions, it's fair to say, were slightly warmer. 28 just going through your picture there was Jordan Watling. Of course, got himself that brilliant result over at Donington last time out. And he's 4th in the championship at the moment, actually, Jordan Watling. Richard Blunt came into this weekend 10th in the championship with 49 points. And John Dieterman leading overall with 113. Dieterman there looks like he might just fancy a move. Further back in third, it's Andy Chalice, number 20, and now it's number 48, Richie Harrison, that has moved up a place and has demoted 57, the Continental-backed rider, Ryan Strafford. So Blunt still has this from Dieterman. This is the fight for third, Chalice, and then Harrison, and then Strafford. So, I thought about a move up the inside there. John Dieterman, it looks like John Dieterman, has he got a cracked front screen that's been bodged up with some tape or something along those lines? Not quite sure what happened. It must have been a fall from earlier, and they've quickly got themselves together there. Oh, it's amazing what a bit of tape can do. John Dieterman back out on circuit and trying to chase down Richard Blunt at the moment to no avail. There is number 88, Richard Stubbs, on the DCR Kawasaki. Easy to spot is Mr. Stubbs out there on that pink and black Kawasaki. So, back to the front. Still no change. Dieterman's had a look up the inside on a few occasions. It's not quite worked out. That's the gap back to third place. Richard Harrison there, number 48. On the melted slider Suzuki, thought about a look up the inside of Andy Chalice, not to be. Trying to rack my brains now as to whether or not Andy Chalice on TV day has been up there on that podium. I think he has on a few occasions, but it would be a good result this for him. Further back there, you can see the freshman riders. 188 is Rob Heritage who leads. Ben Hollingworth, number 83, is up there as well. Stuart Goodson. So, can John Dieterman get past his old foe, Richard Blunt? We exit Ritchie's, head down towards Montreal. Blunt still got it. Going a bit wide there though, isn't he? Montreal there, Richard Blunt, and he has to have a look over and cops a face full of John Dieterman. And on the cutback, John Dieterman has managed to get back past him again and leads on to the back straight. So Blunt, who'd put in so much hard work and effort at the start of this race, one tiny mistake has cost him the lead here at Snetterton. Now, what can he do with a bit of clear air in front of him? Blunt will be cursing himself at the moment, and he will not be happy with that. But John Dieterman has just been there, sitting on his shoulder. Dieterman now goes a little wide around the bomb hole. Further back, this is the battle for third place. Chalice at the moment has it from Harrison, number 48, and there is Nick Williamson, number 6. Good move there from Nick Williamson, I think he might have got squeezed out of that in favour of Harrison around Coram Curve. Onto the start-finish straight we go then. Richard Blunt will see the last lap flag, and having led for so long, he's now going to have to put all of his effort into this final lap to see if he can find a way back past Dieterman. Dieterman takes a defensive line into Ritchie's. That will help out Blunt just close up, but there's some important traffic coming up. There's Chalice in third, Harrison in fourth, number 48, and number 6 in fifth is Nick Williamson. So Andy Chalice here looking good for 16 points and a trophy, but who will get the win? Now, there's a bit of traffic here. There's John Dieterman, just putting a move on Kev Howdle, and that's not fallen too well, I don't think, for Richard Blunt. We'll soon find out. There's Brad Davey. No, it's not worked out at all well for Richard Blunt, and he's been held up sadly. He's not been able to find the way through quick enough, and John Dieterman capitalising on an early mistake then by Richard Blunt, and that's it. It looks like Dieterman's going to take another 25 points. These guys continue to find it out for the fourth place finish, and Nick Williamson this time gets through on him. But here we go then. Number 1, John Dieterman. Having played second fiddle for the vast majority of this race, he crosses the line and takes 25 points. Oh, that will be heartbreaking for Richard Blunt, who has to settle for second, as a couple of the back markers go across the line there as well. Brad Davey, Kev Heidel. It will be Andy Chalice. Well done to Andy on that CT Racing Suzuki. He finishes in third. Nick Williamson, fourth. Richie Harrison then demoted to fifth at Corrams right on the last lap. And Richie Thornton takes sixth place overall. Top 3 on the podium there then, the champion John Dieterman ahead of Richard Blunt on the left and Andy Chalice on the right. And in the freshman GP1s, Heritage, Hollingworth and Goodson.
John, great race there, actually really enjoyed watching it, I have to say.
Yeah, well, like a proper World Superbike race, wasn't it? I could get him in certain places and he was just a little bit too quick up brakes and it straight. Just couldn't quite get him there. I got him coming on the back straight when he made a small mistake at Erpin. It was only that small mistake he made that I got him with. It was close.
It was fantastic, absolutely, yeah, proper racing. To thank who?
Back seating, my dad, because I crashed the bike yesterday in first race. So it was a big job getting it ready, but we got it sorted. Yeah, back seat, my dad. Continental tyres as well. They've offered some support this year and the tyres are absolutely fantastic. Really like them. So yeah, it's Janet, my wife. Got to mention her. Reese, my son, mum and dad. Mark, my brother. So yeah, everybody. Thank you.
Rob, nice win there. Well done.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. I struggled stopping the bike. So one more lap, I'd have been taken over, I think. So yeah, I like that.
Don't tell your competitors that, they'll know next time. Who have you got to thank, Rob?
What's that?
Who have you got to thank?
Car Shop, my main sponsor. I work for them and they've put up some money this year, so they're helping me out. The old man for being me pit man. Park It Racing for helping with the setup of the bike and that. That's about it, really.
Well, Dymag wheels originally were die-cast magnesium, hence the name Dymag, and those were for Formula One and Indy cars and motorcycles. And then moving on through into the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s, the company developed carbon fibre motorcycle racing wheels, followed by carbon fibre car wheels. And it was basically the company that has always been at the forefront of innovating in a racing and performance environment. When the company started out in the 70s and through the 80s into the 90s, we had many world champions on our wheels. We had Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, Alan Prost. We had Superbike champions, people like Barry Sheene and Eddie Lawson, all used our wheels and used to personally deal with the company to buy them. And of course, teams like McLaren, Williams, all used Dymag wheels through that period. Dymag has a history of great innovation, and finally the market seems to have caught up with Dymag. We invented carbon fibre motorcycle wheels and composite car wheels more than 10 years ago, but it's only today that the OEMs and the market is realising the benefits of these. So now we're perfectly positioned to be part of the future of this great big marketplace, which is going to be the global lightweight composite wheels for aftermarket racing, but most importantly, original equipment manufacturers.
It's looking a bit grim here at Snetterton for the Dymag Golden Era Superbikes Race 2. We had a dry race 1. Good battle between the champion here, John Dieterman, and his trusty old foe, Richard Blunt. There is Richard, but the weather conditions have changed somewhat now. Wet tyres, the order of the day. There's Nick Williamson, number 6. To the left of him, Ryan Strafford. Few riders missing on the grid. High rate of attrition this weekend at Snetterton. Away from the line we go then here in the Dymag Golden Era Superbikes. There'll be a few GP1 freshman riders out there as well that we'll keep an eye on throughout the race, but a really hot start there for the champion and the championship leader for 2016, John Dieterman. Everything he touches so far this year seems to turn to gold, but these are horrible conditions in this final race of the weekend. And so he'll want to try and leave here with a big bunch of points again as everyone's trying to find a gap through. There's number 96, Kieran Smith on a Corky Racing at Kawasaki. Nice and bright here in these dull conditions at Snetterton. And Dieterman, a handsome lead already onto the back straight. Oh dear! John Dieterman, has he got some trouble here with his bike? Has he outbraked himself? What's going on? He's looking down. Everything's fine, but he's rejoining. And John Dieterman, well, that's so unlike him. He's made a big mistake there and has rejoined the circuit. Luckily for him, there is a runoff, but what is he down in 6th, 7th, 8th place? 7th, I believe. So Dieterman with an awful lot of work to do here in these wet conditions, and now he's going to have to try and work to get those tyres back up to temperature again. So the ears prick up of the rest of the field. Richie Thornton there battling with Richard Blunt down into Murray's. Blunt will sense an opportunity here with Dieterman a bit further back. They're side by side now onto the start finish straight, but out front it is Richard Stubbs that leads. We've got Richard and Richard in 1st, 2nd and 3rd place. That's Stubbs from Blunt from Thornton. So we could do with a few other riders getting themselves in the mix here so that I don't get confused. It is number 88 going a bit wide there. Stubbs, Richard Stubbs, that has this lead thanks to John Dieterman just running off slightly. John Dieterman, let's have a look and see where he is. He's just at the back of the picture there, so he has got a lot of work to do. Thornton in 2nd place, Blunt in 3rd place. In 4th is Nick Williamson. In 5th is Jordan Watling. Jordan Watling, of course, who did so well at Donington in the wet. He certainly feels comfortable on that Kawasaki in these conditions, and he's starting to find his way to the top of this pile as well, as Nick Williamson blocks his line through the bomb hole. Then there'll be a bit of a gap, and it will be John Dieterman. There is Thornton then in second, chasing down the leader Stubbs. Oh, and Richard Blunt must have made an error in the last couple of corners. He's now fallen behind Nick Williamson and Jordan Watling, and look who's coming into play. It's John Dieterman. I bet Richard Blunt will not be able to believe it when he sees who that is that's just tucked up behind him, and now he's definitely got some heat into those tyres. Has it stopped raining? Looks like it may have stopped raining, which means that the tyres will certainly be keeping themselves nice and warm. There's Ryan Strafford. Strafford has got a visor that looks so clean that it doesn't even look like he's got one on. Ryan Strafford into turn 1. These riders all struggling in these conditions. There's Richie Harrison, 48, being overtaken by Vince Carlton, number 37. Is that a dry tyre on? I can see there. One or two riders maybe gambling here in this race. The gap at the front has come down significantly. Richie Stubbs there, number 88, is now coming under attack from Richie Thornton. Both of these guys looking for their first wins of the season. Richie Thornton decides to go for the inside line, but Stubbs blocks him off. Now then, here they come. Both of them on the same machine, both completely different colours, of course, and it is the black and pink bike of Stubbs that just holds on to the lead for now. In the background, John Dieterman is on them. John Dieterman is the man on the move. He's the man on the charge. He's the quickest man on circuit. Across the line they go, and look at that, he's up to third. He's passed Jordan Watling and Nick Williamson. Richard Blunt has been completely buried out of this race, so I'm not sure whether Blunty has maybe gambled on something different tyre-wise as well. But John Dieterman, if he wins this race, what a win it would be. Here comes Thornton up the inside of Stubbs, and that will allow Dieterman to catch up as well. And the thing is that Dieterman at the moment, he'll be able to see that he's closing up on these guys, and that will just give him so much more confidence. It'll probably give him about another half a second a lap in terms of the grip there. There he is, number 1, John Dieterman. Well, it wasn't looking like he was going to get anywhere near the podium when he made that error a few laps ago, but now, looking at this race and looking at his times, number 1, the backseat heating Yamaha rider, the champion of 2015, could well be looked at as a favourite now to win this one as he makes his way round Coram Curve. Remember, he did something very similar with a really excellent gamble on tyres at Cadwell Park just last season, and that was a race that we looked back on at the end of the season and said, well, that could be your championship winning race. Are we looking at another one here from Dieterman as he goes past the... Look at that! He's up to second. He's gone past Stubbs like he's standing still. Richie Thornton then is the only one left. We're getting to the closing stages of this race, and I'm afraid that your money would now be firmly on John Dieterman to win this race. It would be a shame for Thornton, who's had one of his best rides. Likewise, Stubbs. But they have got a class act coming through on them in just a few moments' time. John Dieterman and his trusty Yamaha, him and his dad, they worked so hard to get that bike maintained and prepared all weekend, every weekend, to make sure that it's ready to race. And they've run into a few problems from time to time, managed to fix them. So we look further back and see there Nick Williamson and Jordan Watling fighting it out for 4th and 5th. These guys are also closing in on Stubbs up ahead of them as well. The DCR Kawasaki rider, Richard Stubbs, who led this race for a while, is falling into the hands of both Nick Williamson and Jordan Watling. Now then, back at the front, this is it. The backseat Yamaha of John Dieterman. You would think, looking around him, that he might decide, well, these guys aren't really challenging me at the moment for the championship. I could settle for second place, but you just know that Dieterman is thinking of only one thing, and that is winning the race. Although, incidentally, these points would come in pretty handy for Richie Thornton overall in the championship, because he wasn't that far behind Nick Williamson when we arrived at Snetterton. So Richie Thornton here, who for now leads, could end up second in the championship, depending on where he finishes. We exit Chapman onto the Bentley straight. Now then, he has a look over his shoulder, and the last thing he wanted to see was the number 1 plate, and look at that, he flies through John Dieterman to take the lead And that's it now, isn't it? You're not going to be able to stop him as he makes his way round Brundle, then Nelson. Richie Thornton, you do well here just to hang on to second place and not even bother trying to chase him down. He is in a world of his own at the moment, the reigning Golden Era Superbike champion. And in the background there, well, we said Stubbs was being caught and he's been passed now. It looks like Nick Williamson and Jordan Watling are going to move up into the top 3 and 4. There'll be a podium place up for grabs between those guys. Onto the start-finish straight. Richie Thornton hasn't quite given up on this just yet. So we go across the line and see the last lap flag. There's nothing wrong with the speed of that Yamaha, is there, of John Dieterman's. He's about to come through and put a lap on Kieran Smith. Richie Thornton desperately trying to find a way back into this one and trying to get the win, but the white flag will be waved shortly. One last attempt maybe. Down into Montreal, he's close. They flick left onto Chapman, and this is where the afterburners are switched on here on that Yamaha, and he says cheerio. And Dieterman now, well, barring any mistakes, should pick up what could be a crucial 25 points, bearing in mind where he was as well. Excellently done. Richard Blunt, by the way, he was scrapping it out for the win earlier on. He is still in this race, but he's down in 6th. And he's a good 20 or so seconds behind that battle between Watling, Williamson and Stubbs, which will surely go to the line. Ryan Strafford also not at his best here in race 2, so the conditions have caught a few people out. Here we go then. The champion is well on his way to defending his crown in 2016. We exit the final turn here at Snetterton, and that is a fine display, despite the earlier error from John Dieterman. And look at that. Stubbs has fallen way back. Jordan Watling is at the front of that pack now as well. Dieterman wins, Thornton second. Then we wait, and I think it might well be Jordan Watling that picks up 3rd place. It is. Jordan Watling has got himself on the podium again on the Electech Racing Kawasaki, ahead of Nick Williamson and Richard Stubbs. So there is confirmation then of the top 6. Dieterman the winner from Thornton. Richard Blunt, former Golden Era champion, down in 6th place. Dieterman then, centre of your picture, Thornton on the left, Jordan Watling on the right. In the GP1 Freshmans, by the way, it's Ben Hollingworth extending his championship lead ahead of Rob Heritage and Stuart Goodson. And in the championship, here it is then. Well, despite the dominance, John Dieterman is not that far ahead. He's only 25 points clear of Nick Williamson. It's still all to play for, with Richie Thornton in 3rd, Blunt in 4th, and in the GP1 Freshman, as we mentioned, Hollingworth, the championship leader from Pollard, Heritage, Batner, Eubank and Goodson.
Then a win there in the new freshman class. Tricky conditions though, eh?
It was tricky conditions just before the race. It was starting to rain, but the skies looked clear, so it was a gamble. Do you go on wet, or do you hope for dries and it's going to get a dry line? It was wet at the start, but then conditions dried up, and yeah, the leading pack got away, but just managed to hold the gap from the freshman guys behind.
What tyres did you have on? Did you have wets?
I did go with wets, yeah, but they're cooked now.
They're done. Have you got anyone to thank?
I have, yeah. Need to say a massive thank you to the Royal Marines charity, Royal Navy Royal Marines Motorsport Association, Sparklight Racing, GB Racing, Silkaleen, and anyone else who gets behind the military, Royal Marines or any of the armed forces to give us a bit of backing. Many thanks. And our best mention, thank you to the missus for putting up with us.
Thanks for joining us here at Snetterton for round 3 of the championship. Up next for us, Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire. We'll see you then.